business leaders put the safety and security of Arkansans and our communities before all else. One consistent theme we've heard today in our discussions is the threat that Communist China poses to Arkansas. It's both pressing and urgent. From threatening our critical infrastructure and conducting economic espionage, buying up farmland, flooding our communities with deadly fentanyl, Communist China has taken the fight on the front lines to us here in Arkansas. Thanks to our valuable federal partners, such as the FBI and its field office here in Little Rock, Arkansas is leading the charge on countering this threat from Communist China. For example, last year our state police, our 19 judicial drug task forces, and all federal law enforcement agencies operating inside of Arkansas teamed up for Operation Enforce and Remove. This operation seized thousands of pills of fentanyl, confiscated dozens of grams of fentanyl powder, and saved untold lives. Additionally, at the state and federal level, we've also been pushing back on Communist China's attempt to buy up farmland, especially farmland near our military bases. I commend Governor Sanders and our legislature for passing a law that prevents Communist China from buying property here in Arkansas. We hope to take that nationwide with the Not One More Inch or Acre Act in the Congress. Our adversaries, especially Communist China, have no business owning any piece of Arkansas's heartland. Following today's productive discussions, I look forward to continuing to work with our state and federal partners and to keep our state and our nation safe from harm. So, thank you all once again for being here. At this point, I would like to turn it over to the Attorney General, Tim Griffin.
Thank you. I want to thank Senator Cotton. I want to thank the Director for being here. First, just want to say our partnership at the state level with the federal government and with the FBI in particular and the U.S. Attorney's Office, absolutely fundamental, absolutely key to what we're doing here. Because the fight that's here, particularly the one from the Communist Chinese, is multifaceted, as you've heard from the Senator, and it's all over the country. And so we're just seeing it here, but the knowledge that of the networks across state lines that the FBI and the federal government has is really important. I have focused on a lot of these areas, but particularly human trafficking and what we have found as we raid these illicit sexual massage parlors. What we find is that they're all, every single one of them, tied to mainland China. Chinese currency, Chinese wire transfers, Chinese nationals working in them in rural Arkansas, stacks of Chinese currency. So this is the fight that we're in. The fight on fentanyl, directly coming from China with the intent of killing Americans. We need to be clear-eyed about this. And without the partnership with the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the federal resources, then we are at a major disadvantage. Just together with Senator Bozeman and the Director for being here and emphasizing how important it is that we lock arms on this threat, which is what I call, which is known as gray zone warfare. The only way we're going to fight it is together. So I applaud the Director for being here. Thank you.
Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman, Mr. Attorney General, thanks so much for allowing me to come visit the great state of Arkansas. It's truly an honor, and Arkansans should know you have two of the very best leaders in the United States Senate, and these two senators, extremely supportive of law enforcement, resourcing state and local communities across Arkansas and across America. We are very, very grateful to have their leadership. Arkansas is uniquely placed, in my opinion, in the fight for national security and reducing violent crime. It is the intersection of one of the greatest agricultural industries we have. It's also the intersection of critical infrastructure and cyber, and also some of the world's largest companies. And so during this administration with the FBI, what President Trump put forward is a massive push to reduce and crush violent crime and defend the homeland. And when we do it together, when we ask our state and local law enforcement partners to show up, and they always show up, this is what you can accomplish. Let me highlight some of the things we've accomplished and we're going to continue to do nationwide, but bring specifically to Arkansas. This administration in its first year has seen a 20% reduction in the murder rate from coast to coast. That is a record for the modern era since 1900. This administration has seized, this FBI has seized enough fentanyl to kill 140 million Americans. That's a 31% increase. This FBI has arrested 6 of the top 10 most wanted fugitives in the world, to include individuals wanted in states across this country for heinous crimes. That's 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration in total. In terms of protecting the homeland, terrorism arrests are up, cyber arrests are up, counter and espionage. We've had a 35% increase in those from countries like China, Russia, and elsewhere who wish to steal our nation's secret and harm our infrastructure. 35% increase in 1 year. And the reason I give you some of these stats, there's so many more, especially when it comes to protecting our children. This FBI has found and identified 6,200 missing children in the last year alone. That is up 25%. In dismantling human trafficking networks, we're up 300% on our arrest alone. But that's not what the work of just the FBI. That is the work of partnering with great state and local law enforcement. And you have those leaders here. You have some of the best cops in the country. You have the best state law enforcement agencies in the country. And we're going to continue to do that. We are not going to let anyone steal our secrets. We're not going to let anyone come into our country and infiltrate our schools. We're not going to let anyone come in here and get away with taking away what they wish they had, which is the dream of being an American. And we are going to defend that together, and it's just really great to be here in Arkansas. And I just want to say thank you to Governor Sanders and also to everybody here today for allowing us to talk to you about the work we are doing, have done, and the work we will continue to do with our partners here and our partners at the Department of Justice. Thank you, and I'd like to turn it over to Senator Bozeman.
I want to thank Senator Cotton for getting us together today for this very important meeting. Senator Cotton, on his position on the Intelligence Committee, being chair of that, nobody's more knowledgeable, nobody works any harder to keep us safe. And today we've been talking about public safety, really in 2 very different areas. One, in our infrastructure, talking about dams, talking about our electricity, being able to maintain that, preventing cyber attacks. All of those things, this isn't very glamorous, but it's so very important for us to be able to function in times of difficulty. And then again, the scourge that we have in Arkansas and throughout the country of violent crime and the drug use that we see going on. So I've always believed that the answers to our problems need to come from the ground up. What we try and do is take things that we hear with the individuals that are on the front lines fighting the battle, and that's who we've been talking to today, taking those ideas and then seeing how we can turn that into legislation and make things better. Also, having the big dog, the head of the FBI here, is a big deal, and him hearing those things, and then 2, explaining what they can do, the things that they have available to help us in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Bozeman. Happy to take your questions now.
Question for you, Senator and Director. The FBI is actively investigating China's involvement here in the United States, specifically in Arkansas. The state has taken a leading role in pushing Chinese government-owned enterprises out. What intelligence concerns are driving those decisions?
Well, as you heard from the Attorney General, as you heard from the Director, the threat from China is multifaceted, and whether it's coming from foreign intelligence or our domestic law enforcement's intelligence capabilities, that's what drives our operations, what the Attorney General's team has done to shut down these illicit massage parlors, all of which are linked back to mainland China. China has a history of economic espionage here in Arkansas, stealing, for instance, rice genomes that can be very valuable, or working with professors at our universities. Fentanyl, we know, comes almost entirely from China. It may make a stop in Mexico. The precursors may have made a stop there to be recombined and pressed into pills, but it almost always comes from China. As the Director said, the Trump administration made it a priority to stop that in China, and they've made some gains on it. Of course, we're not going to trust that that'll continue, but we have seen a decline, fortunately, in drug overdoses recently. But we see the threat from China across numerous parts of our lives. And it's always being driven by the intelligence that our intelligence agencies can collect or what our law enforcement does through its domestic intelligence work. Director Patel, do you want to add anything?
Not much, other than intelligence drives operations. And the one thing that I've done when I got to the FBI is I'm a firm believer in the classified system and protecting our nation's secrets, but I'm a firm believer in sharing information with our state and local partners so they can action this threat together with us, and that's what we've done. And in terms of resourcing, specifically on the CCP threat in general, we at the FBI are distributing agents and intel analysts across the country, seeing plus-ups here in places like Arkansas and elsewhere permanently, because we think that operations in the field are what drives success, and we think that operations based on good intel that we pass to our state and local partners is what drives these successful operations, and we're going to continue to do that.
Question for Senator Cotton. It sounds like y'all talked a lot about several different things today. Was there any specific impetus for this meeting, or was it more just a broad-ranging discussion about law enforcement?
Well, the director and I have known each other for a long time. He's got a long career and distinguished service in law enforcement and intelligence and in national security. And once he was nominated and confirmed, I said that I'd love him to come down to Arkansas sometime and hear from our state and local officials, our attorney general, head of the state police, local police chiefs, also from the private sector where they face serious threats. For instance, the utility companies, the water companies, the grid operators that we met with earlier today. And Director Patel, I know, tries to get out of Washington as much as he can so he can go out and hear from people in the fields, including his agents in his field offices, about the threats they're hearing, about what he can do more from Washington to help people in places like Arkansas keep our communities safe. And one thing I do want to commend him for, and I'm glad that it's continuing, is to push more agents out of the Washington, D.C. headquarters and put them out into the field. That's where they need to be. That's where the work of the FBI is being done. And frankly, most of them I talk to, that's where they want to be as well. Out on the streets in places like Arkansas, helping stop bad guys, not sitting in Washington, D.C. pushing paper.
When Americans think about cartel activity, they often picture larger cities. But how deeply are cartels embedded in rural America, specifically Arkansas?
Unfortunately, you find drug cartel operations in all 50 of our states, to include here in Arkansas, and that stretches out into our rural communities as well. The most effective thing that we've done in the first year of the Trump administration is to shut the border. It's much harder for those cartels to push their drugs into our communities with the border effectively closed. But you do see cartel associations and affiliates in all 50 states, to include here in Arkansas. I might defer to the director again if he wants to talk a little bit about cartel operations in the country.
So yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, we want to go after the DTOs down in Mexico who are the headshed for operations. But what this FBI has done and put an emphasis on with our state and local partners is localized street gangs, because they're the ones that are delivering the smaller quantities of narcotics and firearms that are corrupting our cities across America. And so a huge focus of ours has been localized street gangs. We did great work in LA, and actually we just announced Operation Broken Crown, which was a roll-up of over 50 Latin kings in 13 different states. Those are the types of people that are bringing drugs into rural communities, into mid-major communities, and so they're affecting every American just as badly they're affecting Americans in New York City or LA. So I think you're going to see a continued push from the FBI, partnering with our state and local partners to go after localized street gangs. I think that while we do the stuff down in Mexico that we are doing to attack the drug trafficking organizations and shut them down, we have to be equally as forceful with our localized street gang populations who are doing their work here in our communities across America.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to say again, thank you all for being here today. We appreciate your time on a weekend. Hope you have the rest of the weekend is very good for you, and try to stay warm. Thanks, everyone.
All right.